once we're niched out with all the watch suppliers and the watch affiliates and the watch YouTubers and everything else, then how do we get to the next level? Is how do we get a review on men's fashion? How do we get reviews on all these other sites? Of course, you can pay for it.
It's Nicole B, the Chief Pretty Chick in charge at shopprettypieces.com.
Hey, this is Rolando with Global Tech Worldwide.
Hey, this is Daniel Lederstein with Pegai.
And you are listening to...
And you're watching...
And you're listening to the
E-Comm Show.
Welcome to the E-Comm Show, presented by BlueTuskr, the #1 place to hear the inside scoop from other e-commerce experts, where they share their secrets on how they scaled their business and are now living the dream. Now, here is your host, Andrew Math.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Ecomm Show. I'm your host, Andrew Math, and today I am here with the amazing Ronnie Teja of Branzio. Ronnie, how you doing? You ready for a good show?
Oh, I'm always ready, man. Coming in guns blazing. Whoop, whoop.
So right before we started, you told me that you actually did a podcast earlier. So I'm so excited for this because I know like you're coming in warmed up, like prepped, ready to go, and we're gonna.
I'm always warm and ready, man. I don't need an invite to a boxing match. I'm ready.
Great. So let's do the usual. Let's pretend no one knows anything about you. Tell us a little bit about your background, your company, and we'll go from there.
Sure. My name is Ronnie Teja. I run a company called Branzio Watches. The company was started on January the 1st, 2015. I run a completely remote team of over 50 plus employees. We do about, let's say high 8 figures in terms of revenue. What else do you want to know? I'm a first generation immigrant to Canada, man. I landed fresh off the boat in 2008, and my first job when I landed in Canada was picking blueberries in the fields of British Columbia, Canada. Yep, that was me.
And where are you at right now?
I'm in the Maldives. So I'm here for diving, but my usual choice of locations usually revolve between Bangkok, Vancouver, and Berlin. Mm-hmm. I have residences in all 3 cities, so I'm a perpetual sun chaser. And then I'm in the Maldives because my next destination is Dubai, where I'm speaking at the Affiliate World Conference, where I've been lucky enough to get the opportunity to speak. And I said, wait a second, if I'm leaving Bangkok, then I may as well make a pit stop in the Maldives so I can go diving, which I haven't done since the pandemic started.
Well, there you go. Good call. How is it so far?
Yeah, it's fantastic, man. Got to see some turtles, sharks, the manta rays, bunch of stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So how'd you get into this product line in 2015 when you started?
After my failed venture of starting an ad consultancy of media buying, I read somewhere online when I was looking for new business ideas that the margins on watches are pretty insane. And I said, wait a second, money, margins? I got to try this thing out. So I went through the usual rigmarole of actually starting a brand, went on Alibaba, tried to source a supplier. But lo and behold, I got taken for a ride, which usually happens to a lot of people, I guess. But we got these watches made. We had the molds made. We were ready to launch at Investable. I think at that point in time, I think $12,000 or $13,000 into the business, which when you're starting out is a lot of money. And and this is over a period of like 2.5 months, hired a designer, did all that, did all the fun stuff. By the time we came to a launch, and I'm not joking about this, I couldn't make this out of a movie, right? It's like 24 hours before launch, I see this Kickstarter page going on some friend's page, and I go, wait a second, let me have a look at this Kickstarter page. And apparently, this brand that's planning to launch has the same logo as us, same watch face as us, and same everything else. So somebody in China basically had sold this other person the OEM specifications for our watches. So that was like basically, 12 grand just flushed on the toilet. And I was like, man, this is it. My adventure as an e-commerce entrepreneur has basically ended even before it even started. So I was, right down to the neck of the woods, about 5 to 7K back, left in the bank, caught a flight, read somewhere again that the world's largest watch fair and expo is in Hong Kong. A one-way flight from Vancouver to Hong Kong is about $600. Ended up in Hong Kong, called my buddy King, who lives there, and I said, hey, bud, I need a place to stay. I need to figure this out. So got free accommodation in Hong Kong, which is really expensive, accommodation of food, anything else, and visited his watch fair every day for a week, right? I became such a pest that each and every watch supplier knew how to avoid me because I was asking too many questions. At the end of the day, I mean, that's me, man. I'm persistent. And my mom taught me to always look for a good deal because I'm Indian. And so ended up with this like one watch supplier who was small enough but not large enough to take a chance on me. Lo and behold, out comes the Indian guy. I said, okay, I'm going to come to Shenzhen. I'm going to come live with you for free. And then I'm going to ask you for a credit after living with you for 30 days. Somehow this guy was nice enough to give me that line of credit. I mean, it doesn't work like that. I mean, we're still with the same supplier, 6-7 years later. Phenomenal guy. Gave me a 60-day line of credit, payment term credit, which is unheard of in China.
Yeah.
And that's how I started. And I think a part of that is because I have been quite persistent in terms of the way we've approached problems within the organization. We have been quite lucky because all the buzzwords which I assume which will come up at some point in time in this interview is like iOS 14.5, iOS 15, blah blah blah. How have we been able to avoid it? And I can take that story when the time comes. Yeah.
So you got knocked off before you even really launched is amazing. So did you have to scrap the whole thing and basically start completely?
10 grand flushed down the toilet, bud.
Yeah. That's nuts. So obviously prior to the interview, kind of did some digging in to see what your background was and all that fun stuff. And I see you've been in marketing for a very, very long time prior to starting this. So your background is primarily in digital marketing, correct?
Yes, my background. I'm a self-taught digital marketer. Like I said, like when I was picking blueberries, I was like, man, I'm not going to go, I'm not going to do this backbreaking labor work. And trust me, this was my first manual job at the right age of 22. Like I had never had a manual labor job. I mean, it's kind of like funny, like, 6 months before that, I was completing my PhD in poverty economics at the London School of Economics. So life throws you curveballs. When I was there, my parents got the opportunity. My mom was a principal applicant. We got the opportunity to immigrate to Canada. And they said it's a golden ticket. These opportunities don't come too often because I've grown up in India. And it was like, okay, let's do it. And lo and behold, there we are.
What has your overall marketing approach been? You're in watches, which is an incredibly crowded, complicated market. It's very competitive. It's typically a luxury side of things. So it's also a premium brand that you're trying to build out. So you have to build that brand around the watch itself. So how are you differentiating yourself against your competitors?
Look, there's been a couple of things that I'd say we've been lucky on and that I've been proactive on, right? So there's a little bit of luck at play here, which I'm not going to deny. Persistence plays a good key role. And of course, there's been that sort of mindset of deplatforming. Let's say not putting all your eggs in one basket, right? So I'll take you through each part of it and I'll try and explain it as we go along. So the first part is not being platform dependent. We were proactive in sort of getting off of. So the luck factor is we were into e-commerce in 2015 when CPMs on Facebook were dirty, right? So till 2018, I could still have that approach of treating Facebook or Instagram or 2019 even, treating it like a washing machine. So I'm going to throw in, let's say, 100 grand, right? And out of this 100 grand, we will optimize ads to get a 2x or 3x in terms of ROAS, right? Performance marketing, as we call it. It's worked out for us till 2019, right? Second approach was, which sort of my light bulb went off, which was in 2018, was like, we are too platform dependent when our Facebook accounts, Google accounts, and at that point in time, we were doing some side business on Amazon. All three got suspended at the same time, right? And we were like, holy shit. Pardon my French, but that's true. It's happened to everybody. It's happened to everybody in this whole, through the journey. And when that happens, you start getting pretty desperate. But that's when you realize that sort of thought comes into your head is like, what if this happens again? So you start looking at different avenues of actually saying, look, I can't be too dependent on Facebook. I can't be dependent on Google. So that's when we started initiating strategies for like influencers, for SEO, for buying affiliate websites, for all this other stuff. So if I were to look at my ad spend, or if I were to look at ad spend as a percentage of business cost, back in 2018, it was about 50% of the business, right? Today, that same sort of percentage of the business cost is about at 20-25%. So a quarter of the business versus half of the business, and actually using that money for testing and actually building and acquiring websites which actually support the main brand. So Branzio itself is supported by 15 different websites, right? So we actually said we're going to actively pursue and buy websites in different countries or competing spaces or whatever it is, or whatever to support the main branch of the brand. So that has worked out for us. In terms of, and to be honest, if we were to talk about iOS 15 and iOS 14.5, that strategy has actually worked out for us in the long run because we were able to take content and make it a key pillar of our focus, and then actually taking SEO and growing our SEO, let's say 1.5 million organic visitors, and actually, which is on long tail search keywords like, what is the best watch to wear for 22 watches reviewed, blah, blah, blah. And actually using that to drive top funnel traffic and then converting them to, lower funnel traffic.
Yeah.
Or investing in influencers for 2 to 3 or 4 ROAS versus Facebook, which is only giving me 1.8. Or investing in TikTok, where we were able to draw a lot more users before that platform took off. Versus, I can tell you some of the success stories. I can also tell you the failures. So take it with a grain of salt. There's been a lot of stuff I've seen and also, right?
Everything we do is awesome.
Most people come to possibly like, I'm a very successful entrepreneur, blah, blah, blah. Listen, man, I'm only telling you about 4 things that have worked out for us. I can tell you about like 50 different things and the acquisitions that have failed and, websites that I've bought and have, been hit by the Google ban hammer or have failed on the SEO influencers who've taken money from us and run away. So there's a lot of this stuff too. I feel like people come to podcasts always talking themselves up and saying, look, this is me, I'm very successful. No. There's about 30 different things that I've done, out of which only 4 have been successful. There's 26 others that have failed. So please take it with a grain of salt. So it's not everything is successful. I can tell you the success that has happened, which hopefully you and your audience can take and, be like, okay, these are the 4 things that maybe we can learn from and we can try and emulate. Sure. Happy to share that.
You got suspended on all 3 at the same time. Facebook, Google, and Amazon. Dude,
okay,
what'd you do?
I'll be honest with you. Your life is shit when you even get the ban hammer from Bing. Like, who gets a ban hammer from Bing?
That's a good question. I don't know anyone who's ever been suspended off of Bing. Well, congratulations. I finally met one. What did you do?
I don't know, man. I didn't do anything. Just they just, the problem is your business today is dependent on some guy who lives in, for lack of a better word, in India or the Philippines or one of these places, doesn't know much about what your business does, and it's dependent on his mood of the day. Did coffee taste good, or did he have a fight with his wife the night before? Unfortunately, or fortunately for you, he did or did not.
Oh, it's so true.
That's what happens, man. It's and that's what I said. Deplatform.
It is funny when you, especially with like things like Facebook or Amazon, I see it happen a lot where it's just a matter of like your support ticket gets denied and you're like, just submit the same thing again. You'll get a different guy and they'll probably be okay.
Yeah. And that's the truth of it, dude. It's literally the truth of how things work. So it's not me who's making this stuff up. I mean, it's stuff that, Naval or somebody else has said in podcasts even. It's like, I wish what I was saying was made up. But unfortunately, we both know, or anybody who's listening to the podcast with an e-com business knows that there's a certain element of truth to it.
Yeah. The concept of acquiring websites that aren't entirely, it sounds like they're not competitors. They're just websites that you're leveraging.
They're like filler websites. Right? So say, for example, if I were to build an SEO strategy, right, I want to surround myself with affiliate websites or affiliates that we have worked with before. And we look at it from a 5 to 10 year strategy, which is like, if I would acquire this website, say, for example, if this affiliate, we were to pay the affiliate, let's say $100,000 in commission over the next 5 years. What if I were to take that chance and say, talk to the affiliate today and make an offer of say $50,000 or $60,000 to buy the website, right? But the assumed risk is I assume the risk for the next 4 years in case this affiliate website gets hit with the ban hammer or something. I'll pay you out, but I assume the risk as well. So, it's a win-win for either party. So if it's me taking the risk, and in some cases the risk has worked out for me. Out of those 15 sites, there have been 10 sites that I won't mention. Like I said, failure again. 10 sites that I won't mention here because they have failed. So it was supposed to be a portfolio of 25 websites, but 10 of those have failed. And, but we've lost about, $300,000, $400,000 on that. But fair enough. We did. We took a chance. We learned from it. And that's a pretty important lesson for us to learn.
So are you continuing to maintain these sites, or are you acquiring them and then just kind of letting them ride for
No, we acquire them. We maintain them. We build content on them. In some cases, we even get a competitors to advertise on them. So I'm paying my, unfortunately, I'm subsidizing Branzio with my competitors' money.
Yeah.
And it's not
that's great.
Yeah, sure, man. It's like if they pay for it and they're paying more than me, why not?
Yeah. So you must have a pretty significant content process going on if you're pumping out content on several different sites all the time.
Yes. And for that, the credit goes to my, project manager, Calvin's, who lives in Kenya. And basically, he's the guy running the show. Because without him, it's going to be a wreck. Because we're churning out, I think, about 30 articles a week. 30 to 50 articles, and that in turn is about 10 writers that he has to manage. So it's a constant process of how this whole process is working out.
Yeah. Wow. It's impressive. And so you have them all obviously linking back to your own website,
yes,
presumably a little bit over to their site to kind of just keep catering to that.
Yeah,
and so
we don't want to show favoritism, but we do to a certain extent. Yeah. So it works out in some cases. It all depends, right? We still want these websites to run as separate business units, making their own revenue, right? But at some point in time, if there's a downtime, we're not getting the CPMs of the affiliate revenue that we are, then of course we'll put a brand on top.
Yeah.
So all businesses are treated separately as well.
Are you leveraging that same data from a paid ads perspective? So do you have do you have the Branzio Facebook pixel on every single one of those and you're retargeting all of them that way?
Yeah.
That's a very interesting approach. I don't think I know anyone that's doing that right now. That's I can see how that would be risky, but also how it could definitely pay off if they're.
Oh, of course it does. It's top of funnel, right? You just want the top of funnel traffic. Once you get the top of funnel, then that's where you start building a brand, because we know we want qualified users, they're into watches. Then why not show them the watch company that you own?
Yeah. So every one of these sites that you're acquiring are based around watches in one way or another.
Yes. So it has to be in that niche, so that we are actually using that remarketing data on YouTube or Google or Facebook or anything else.
Yeah.
So it's qualified traffic.
Yeah. Huh. You had mentioned earlier that, you were suspended off Amazon. You kind of made it sound like that you used to be on there. Are you not selling on Amazon anymore?
We used to be on Amazon, I think, about 4 years ago.
Yeah. You pulled
Amazon banned us for sales velocity because I thought we grew from 10 to, I think, from maybe $500 to $3,000 one fine week. And Amazon thought we were selling somebody's knockoff watches.
Of course it did.
And I said, okay, thanks, man. Bye.
Yeah.
And we haven't been back on Amazon ever again.
Yeah. So you're solely on your site now, or have you diversified?
It's 100% e-commerce driven, man. It's 100% e-commerce. So we looked at the margins we would pay Amazon. We said, you know what, if you were to pay 35% to Amazon, why not give customers an extra 20% discount to come to the e-commerce side and buy it?
Good point.
So the customer gets a better deal. And the problem with Amazon is also the jewelry and fashion insurance policy is up to 2 years. And our watches, for lack of a better word, right? It's they will last you 2 years. It's a $150 watch. It's not a Rolex. It's not a lifetime purchase.
Yeah.
Right. So they will last 2 years, but there are a lot of customers, and there's a lot of let's say delinquents out there. I hate to say that, who would basically like a free product from Amazon every goddamn 3 months. And Amazon just says, not our business. You're a third-party seller. Don't really care. Here's a free product. We don't really care. So you're screwed again. You're a small business, man. It's when you go to a third-party platform again, at least with Google and Facebook, I can control the levers of what the customers who come in, what a return policy is, and et cetera, et cetera. With Amazon and Walmart and all these other guys, they don't give a shit. They literally will take you as is, and they say, look, we're the third party, we made a 35%. They're not going to return you the 35%, mind you, right? They're just going to say, not a problem. Here you go. Here's a free product. And they're going to send you charge back for it. Thanks.
Yeah. Have you thought about going retail or anything like that?
We do work with DFS, which is duty free. So we are only right now in a couple. It's the wrong time to be in the duty free business, but the good part about it is that we were able to negotiate some pretty aggressive rates.
Yeah.
Again, negotiation. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
So what's your day to day like now that you've got like, I think you said you have 50 plus employees across the world. Like what is your main focus now?
My focus is to turn this business into a brand, right? Now it's a very like a cliche thing to say, but I'll delve into it a little bit. When I talk about what my priorities are dealing one-on-one with let's say what's the next best thing that we can do to delineate ourselves from, of course, like I talked about platforms. So 3 years ago, my goal was to move from a 50% paid ad spend to like a 20-25, which we have, right? The second goal is going to be how are we building an email list? How are we growing a text list? How are we growing our brand working with key influencers? Key influencers would be like, how am I working with the guys at Hodinky? How am I working with the guys at What You Seek? How am I working with the guys, in our particular niche? And when we're niched out, which we haven't even started exploring yet, once we're niched out with all the watch suppliers and the watch affiliates and the watch YouTubers and everything else, then how do we get to the next level? Is how do we get a review on men's fashion? How do we get reviews on all these other sites? Of course, you can pay for it, but organically to get on there.
So you mentioned in the beginning as well, you guys are, you're in the high 8 figures now. One of the things I always mention is, there's that first million, then there's typically like the 5 million mark, 10 million, and then it's usually like 25, 50.
That's usually my cutoff. Yeah.
So like what is
the first $100,000, man? Everybody forgets about the first 100K. The first 100K is the hardest one.
That's actually a very good point. Is usually that first $100,000 is difficult. What would you say are the things that kind of helped you surpass those different hurdles?
I would
say
they're all
different.
Yeah, for the first 100K was like, it was me plus one employee, and I was burnt out, man. I was working 16-hour days. I think I went from. Do you do kilos or pounds? Do you do kilos or pounds? What do you measure yourself in? Your weight?
Pounds.
Yeah. So if it's pounds, I went from, I think I gained about 80 pounds in a year.
Wow.
Yeah. I was fat, man. and I didn't know any way to like de-stress other than drink. So I was drinking a lot, eating like crap, all that stuff. Yeah. So at the behest of my health, I grew, let's say, to my first million, right? So I made which is a very, now that I look back at it, I'm like, silly guy. And then when I grew from 1 to 5, the health factor played in a little bit. My team grew to maybe like 10 people, but I was a micromanager, right? I micromanaged everybody's business. I wasn't a good manager. My hiring practices were, I didn't trust anybody to like have that sort of, to trust anybody to run the business. I was the guy who the business was centered around. So I was back to working 60, 70 hour weeks. Maybe I would have one day off. But again, right? Self-loathing, self-hatred, lots of drinking to de-stress, which wasn't really healthy again. Weight was 260, 270 pounds, right? Now, yeah, I know, man. And then 5 to 10, that journey became different because I hired a HR department. I hired this guy who was a HR director, took the team completely remote. All the bad decisions I had in terms of hiring people, this guy replaced. He cleaned house day one, and we got the right people in place to actually come in and manage the company and the team. When that happened, I got to a phase of, hey, this company can run itself. I grew more trusting. I hired experts who could do their jobs, and I could actually take a seat. Then I went from, let's say, 260 pounds to almost 180 pounds.
I say you don't look it right now.
No, because then COVID happened. Then I started drinking again, man. I don't drink anymore, right? Then I started drinking again. I didn't know what to do. I mean, business ran perfectly for me during COVID. Yeah. But, there was this other stress that you're making up in your head. So the next level of growth was me drinking again, going back to old habits and not seeking external help. And then, of course, you can see the culture changing. People are like, what the hell's going on, et cetera, et cetera. And then, I started sat down and talked to a counselor. And then that was the third shift.
Mhm.
And now I don't drink, back to no drinking, nothing else. And 160 pounds.
Wow.
So if I were to tell you anything or anybody to this podcast, right, put your health and yourself and your mental health, your physical health first, and then you focus on everything else, because you are the key person for that team. And what not a lot of people realize is that if your mind, body, and soul are not in sync, it can ruin your business. I have been very lucky that even when I was going through that phase of COVID or whatever, my team around me was very strong to pull me up.
Yeah.
And they were one of the reasons that actually I said, if I'm surrounded by such amazing people around me, I need to pull my socks up. I can't really be doing this. I'm not a kid anymore. So
the mental health side of things is a very interesting topic. I know it's definitely, I would say, over the past couple of years, especially since COVID happened, it's definitely a hot topic that a lot of people are always talking about. And to be completely honest, even myself, I'm guilty of saying like, that's like, you're fine. Like, stop crying about it. But like, as time went on, yeah,
I promise you.
In the past, like I would comfortably say probably past like 6 months or so, I started to realize like, okay, I was wrong. Like I can see how the consistent stress and like things like that really starts to bottle up. And so you mentioned you went and saw a counselor. What did you get? Do you get like a life coach type of counselor? Do you get more like a traditional
actually,
like therapist?
Talk to like a dude. I'll be 100% honest. And this, it's public domain, public knowledge. So I have no issues. I talked to because I saw myself drinking and I said, I'm going down the wrong path. So I talked to like a guy who was a alcohol counselor. And I said, look, if I continue drinking, I am going to go down a path which is going to lead to alcoholism one fine day.
Yeah.
Right. You're drinking 2 times a week. Fair enough. But the thing was, it's not the drinking. It was the drinking, the bad habits after, which is not exercising, eating a lot, like all this stuff. So a lot of people are able to manage it. I personally didn't. And then, of course, then came the thing about, business stress, et cetera, et cetera. So this person had sort of dealt with entrepreneurs before, so he had an idea about it. So for me, it sort of worked out. It was like it was an all-in-one deal, right? Yeah. So it worked out for me. It was fantastic. But the thing was, like, when I thought about mental health before, like if you would ask me like a year and a half ago, I'd be like, no, I don't give a shit. Now I talk about it because what my hope is that if people want to talk about it, then, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or any other avenue you want so I can help you out, man. I have no issues. Like, I'm an open book. So if I can even change somebody's life a little bit for the positive, I'm happy to do it. And it only would take 15, 20 minutes of my time.
So now that you've been able to kind of relieve some of those stresses or at least work through them, what are you kind of channeling your energy to now? Like what is next for Branzino that you're kind of focusing on?
Focus is we want to hit the $50 million mark in terms of sales, right? Mm-hmm. So my life currently is a lot of focused work. So I started, for some reason, I wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning, and I used to never wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning. So by the time it's like 6 a.m., I'm at inbox zero, right? Yeah. I've done my morning routine, which is like making filter coffee and all this other fancy stuff that I do. And by 9 a.m., if I need to, it's 9 a.m. is after my gym, blah blah blah, and basically I'm ready to hit the ground running. So from 10 to 2, I just smash out all the work that I need to be doing. And then I take a break, go to the gym again or cycling or something. And then I come back and work in the evenings, and I have my meetings or podcasts or whatever I need to do in the evening. So I've literally been able to take my day and decouple it in such a way that it suits my lifestyle the best. And of course, the focus then becomes is like in the morning, it depends on the day. I'm able to focus on my main task is to, like I was explaining to you, was how are we looking at acquiring websites to grow again, right? It's like having that sort of thought process. Our website's the only way to grow. Why are we, if we were to acquire a website, then what are the dollars and cents cost of, building a content engine that would it cost the same, et cetera, et cetera. So, it's different priorities for different days. But my goal is to hit $50 million in the next, I would say, 16 months.
And you think that the website acquisition strategy that you have is probably what's going to be the thing that helps you get over that
Some days. There's pros and cons to it, right? You just have to look at the dollars and cents. Like I said, the dollars and cents is do you build your own content machine, which can go head to head with like Hodinkee and all those guys? Mm-hmm. Or do you want to sort of come into such a play where you can actually say, can I acquire 5 or 6 smaller websites, make another pillar out of it, and then acquire it? So where I am leaning towards right now is maybe we will tap out at a certain level, but I don't think so that that gap has been covered yet. So I want to try and cover that gap first. So when we cover that gap, then we can look at something larger.
Ronnie, really appreciate having you on the show. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. This was fantastic. Learned a lot. I'd love to give you a minute and let everyone know where they can learn more about you, more about Branzio, and we'll go from there. All right?
Yeah, sure. My watch website is branzio.com. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Ronnie, my first name, last name is Teja. Always happy to help. Look, at any point in time, it's been a pleasure to be on the show. And then if at any point in time, like if you want to reach out for any help or anything else, I'm an open book, man. Happy to help out.
Beautiful. Appreciate it, Ronnie. Thank you so much for being on the show. Everyone who tuned in, of course, thank you as well. Please make sure you rate, review, subscribe, all that fun stuff on whichever podcast platform you prefer, YouTube or at ecommshow.com. But as usual, thanks again, and we will see you all next time. Have a good one.
Thanks, bud.
Thank you for tuning in to the E-Comm Show. Head over to ecommshow.com to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or on the BlueTuskr YouTube channel. The E-Comm Show is brought to you by BlueTuskr, a full-service digital marketing company specifically for e-commerce sellers looking to accelerate their growth. Go to BlueTuskr.com now for more information. Make sure to tune in next week for another amazing episode of the E-Comm Show.